Good morning. Welcome to your daily solo 401k webinar Q&A session with my solo 401k financial, where we try to help you to build your tax shelter IRA as well as your solo 401k so that you can stop overpaying taxes and hopefully grow your IRA and solo 401k for some real retirement wealth. So this is your chance to get answers. We use these webinars to cover certain topics. Today's topic is who owns the LLC in a self-directed IRA. We'll also use this session to answer questions. So go ahead and type those questions over. Make sure to type them over so we can be sure to get to them all. Looks like we have one question out there already. We'll take a look at that in a moment. So again, today's Q&A session can be about self-directed solo 401ks, self-directed IRAs, and IRA LLC. We cover all IRA and solo 401k topics on a daily basis. Today's topic happens to be regarding self-directed IRAs invested in an LLC. So this is actually a good topic here. We get these questions quite a bit. So one of the most common and most misunderstood questions in self-directed IRA retirement planning is who actually owns the LLC in a self-directed IRA? So this question is important because ownership determines control, compliance, tax treatment, and it impacts prohibited transaction risk. So if you get it wrong, it could disqualify your IRA and trigger taxes and penalties. So let's go ahead and break this down clearly. So the short answer, the owner of the LLC is the IRA custodian for the benefit of your IRA. So neither you own the LLC nor your IRA, technically. It's technically the trust company for the benefit of your self-directed IRA that is the single member, also known as an owner of that LLC. So for example, if you use a self-directed IRA custodian like Forge Trust, they're a very popular self-directed IRA custodian. Title to that LLC, that is the member / owner, would be Forge Trust Company for the benefit. So FBO, John Smith, traditional IRA, if you have a traditional IRA, or you would substitute that with Roth IRA. You, as the IRA account holder, are the manager. So John Smith would be the manager of that IRA LLC, also known as a checkbook IRA. So even though you may manage the LLC, you are not the owner. So this structure is not optional. It is required to comply with IRS rules, where you have to list the name of the trust company for the benefit of your IRA. So why the IRA must own the LLC? Let's talk about that here. So an IRA is a separate legal and tax advantaged entity. It's technically a retirement trust. Just like all 401ks, including solo 401k plans, are retirement trusts. Same thing with IRAs. So when the IRA funds are used to fund that LLC, the Investor is the self-directed IRA custodian for the benefit of your IRA. So all income and gains belong to the IRA indirectly. So all expenses must be paid via that LLC that's funded with the self-directed IRA. If the LLC were owned personally, let's say by you or even partially, it would be considered self-dealing, which is a prohibited transaction under IRS code 4975. So again, today we're talking about a single member LLC where the self-directed IRA is the sole member of that LLC and you are the manager. So as the manager of that IRA LLC, aka checkbook IRA, although you don't own the LLC, you can manage the LLC. So as a non-compensated manager, you can sign contracts on behalf of the LLC. Let's say the IRA LLC wants to invest in a rental property. So you're going to sign all the purchase documents as the manager of the LLC, because it's the LLC that's making that investment in that real estate property. Same thing with the cryptocurrency account. Let's say you want to invest that IRA LLC in cryptocurrencies. You would open up a cryptocurrency exchange account in the name of the LLC, not the self-directed IRA, but in the name of the LLC, because remember, the self-directed IRA invested in that LLC as the sole member of that LLC through the self-directed IRA custodian. So when you open up the holding account at the exchange, you're going to open it in the name of the LLC. You're also going to fund that crypto exchange account with funds from the LLC bank account. So you would wire funds from the LLC bank account or link the LLC bank account with the cryptocurrency exchange account. Same thing if you're investing in precious metals. I know that silver and gold investing is very popular right now due to the tremendous growth in silver and gold the last 12 months. When you make an investment in physical metals, you want to make sure that the purchase receipts are titled in the name of the LLC, because it's the LLC making that investment. Also, you want to make sure that you open up a safety deposit box in the name of the LLC to hold those precious metals. You cannot hold precious metals owned by an IRA LLC at your home, office. If you do, number one, that's dangerous. Number two, that would result in a distribution and possibly a prohibited transaction. So again, as the manager, even though you cannot get compensated, you are responsible for looking after what goes on inside that LLC, including making investments, as well as making the day-to-day operational decisions for that LLC. So it's not even though the LLC is not a business, but rather it's a passive investment entity for investing self-directed IRA funds in alternative investments, you need to make sure that you manage it properly. So you cannot pay yourself a salary or any type of management fee. You also cannot use any of the IRA LLC assets for personal use. For example, if the LLC owns a rental property, it would be prohibited for you to use that property for personal use, even if you rent it out and pay fair market rate. That's not allowed. And you also cannot provide services that personally benefit you or other disqualified persons. Okay, let's take a look at some questions here in a moment. So let's scroll down to I can look at one moment here. Give me get my slides in order here. So let's talk about the tax considerations of a LLC that is funded with the self-directed IRA. So again, here, the self-directed IRA through the self-directed IRA custodian is a 100% owner slash member of that LLC. So it's treated as a disregarded entity for tax purposes, which means that at the federal level, there won't be any annual tax return, which is typically required. In other words, if you have an LLC where the single member is the self-directed IRA custodian for the benefit of the IRA, then it's a disregarded entity. It's not considered a partnership. It would be considered a partnership if you have a multi-member LLC where you have multiple members. Then the LLC would need to file an annual federal tax return known as a Form 1065 partnership return. But that's only for a multi-member LLC, not for a single member LLC where it's just your self-directed IRA through the self-directed IRA custodian that is the sole member of that LLC. As a result, all the gains and expenses need to flow through that LLC. And of course, the gains will continue to grow tax deferred. Now, in some instances, the underlying investment inside that LLC, typically real estate that's owned through that LLC, could be subject to unrelated business income tax or unrelated debt finance income tax. For example, if you invest that IRA LLC in a rental property where you obtain a non-recourse loan to that LLC, and then those funds are used towards the purchase of that rental property. So you're basically leveraging your LLC funded IRA for investing in a rental property where the LLC may not have enough funds to make that real estate investment. So the LLC can obtain a non-recourse loan so it can borrow funds from a lender. The lender can be a bank or it can be a hard money lender. We actually have a list of lenders on our website that will loan funds to both a solo 401k and an LLC owned by an IRA for investing in real estate. So when an LLC that's funded with your IRA utilizes borrowed funds for investing in real estate, that's going to result in the LLC having to pay unrelated debt finance income tax, which means that you need to make sure you have enough funds in that LLC to cover that unrelated debt finance income tax, which is typically at a 38% tax rate. The first $1,000 is typically exempt from UDFI, but the remaining amount would be subject to that 38% tax rate. But again, that only applies if your LLC funded IRA utilizes debt financing for investing in real estate. Now, there's also unrelated business income tax, which you don't see very often, but that's similar to unrelated debt finance income tax, except unrelated business income tax deals with the LLC funded with your IRA that invests in a business. So let's say your IRA LLC decides to invest in your friend's clothing business by buying by being an equity investor in your friend's LLC clothing business. that's going to trigger unrelated business income tax that's going to apply to that LLC funded by your IRA, because when an IRA or an LLC that's funded with an IRA invests in a business, unless that business is set up as a C corporation, then that's going to trigger unrelated business income tax. So that's another item to be aware of regarding tax treatment. Okay, let's take a look at some questions, and then we'll come back and continue with today's topic, which is who owns the LLC and a self-directed IRA. Here we go. This is more about the solo 401k than the self-directed IRA. No problem. As I mentioned at the beginning, these webinars, we cover certain topics, but we answer questions surrounding all aspects of solo 401ks as well as IRAs. But can you talk through how the custodian actually sets up the individual accounts, whether it be one account for pre-tax, one for Roth accounts? I'm a solo LLC owner with a spouse, part-time employee. Will there be 4 accounts as a result, 2 for each of us, 1 pre-tax, 1 Roth? Good question. Let me get to some slides surrounding that. So let's talk about the solo 401k plan here. Give me a moment while I get to the slide I want to go over. Okay, so let's take a look at this here. So here's an example of a one participant plan. So the solo 401k plan is sponsored by the self-employed business. Let's say your self-employed business is an S corporation. So it's just one plan. And let's say you're the only participant. So it's a one participant solo 401k plan. So you're going to have a total of 3 separate holding accounts, aka bank or brokerage accounts, to hold the various solo 401k fund sources. You're going to have a pre-tax solo 401k brokerage account, or you can substitute brokerage account for bank account. You'll have a Roth solo 401k brokerage account, and then a voluntary after-tax solo 401k holding account. So it's just one plan. It's not 3 separate solo 401k plans. It's one plan with 3 separate holding accounts for each source of funds. And that's a solo 401k regulation, or moreover, it's actually an IRS code regulation where you have to separately track your source of funds within the plan. You cannot commingle those in one single holding account, aka bank or brokerage account. You need to have 3 separate bank or brokerage accounts for each source of funds. Here's an example of a 2 participant plan. Let's say both spouses are self-employed in the same self-employed business. Let's say it's an LLC tax as a partnership. It can be an LLC tax as a sole proprietorship or S corporation. As long as you're both working for that same self-employed business, you both participate in the same solo 401k plan. So it's still just one plan. However, because the regulations require that you have separate holding accounts, aka bank or brokerage accounts, under the solo 401k plan to hold your various fund sources, the same is true if you have multiple participants in the solo 401k plan. So here we're referring to a 2 participant plan. That is, both spouses are self-employed in the same business. So it's just one plan, but each spouse is considered a participant. So each participant is required to have separate holding accounts. So this is an example where you're going to have a total of 6 holding accounts, aka custodian accounts. You can also call them brokerage accounts, bank accounts, but they're all titled in the name of the solo 401k, and you're going to label each account accordingly so you know which funds sources are which. And again, 3 separate holding accounts for each participant. So here you would have a total of 6 holding accounts under the plan. And then you would each make contributions to the solo 401k plan based on your respective self-employment income from the respective self-employed business. So that's how that works. Okay, let's see if we have some other questions here. Here's a question. I opened 3 Schwab accounts for a 1 participant plan, pre-tax, Roth, and after-tax. When the account appears as Schwab, the accounts were called pension trusts. That's exactly right. That's exactly how Schwab refers to brokerage accounts that are opened for a self-directed solo 401k plan. So they were opened up correctly. And there's no distinction between pre-tax, Roth, and after-tax. How can I find out which one is which? Great question. So when the brokerage accounts are set up for the very first time, they're all going to have a 0 balance. So once they're open, you need to log into your Schwab login, and you need to nickname those brokerage accounts. You're going to want to label them. One will be labeled pre-tax, the second Roth, and the third one voluntary after-tax. So you know which one is which. Again, it's still just one plan. It's just separate brokerage accounts. And when you log into Schwab, you'll be able to nickname them. Same thing with Fidelity. Many of our clients use Fidelity Investments to hold the solo 401k funds for the self-directed solo 401k that we offer. You have to go in and nickname those brokerage accounts because, again, they're open with the 0 balance. So you can nickname them at that time. Let me see if I can share some information on how to nickname those Schwab accounts. Give me a moment here. Here we go. Let me share. Take a look at this language from our website page, our Schwab website page. So take a look at that there. Wait a minute. Yeah, take a look at that right there. And then here's the link where you can find language regarding how to nickname those Schwab brokerage accounts. But you're going to do that when you log in to view those Schwab brokerage accounts. You're going to nickname them at that time. All right, let's see here. Looks like we have another questions here. So here's a question. I have similar questions to Taylor and Anshu. I have 2 existing solo 401ks at Schwab. One is a traditional and the other is a Roth. My goal is to be able to perform the mega backdoor Roth. Would you be able to restate either of those plans to your documents? And when I make after-tax contributions, where should I roll the funds into? Should it be rolled into a Roth 401k or a Roth IRA? Good question. So your question is a little different because you happen to have a solo 401k at Schwab, which is fine because on a daily basis, we are transferring solo 401k plans offered by Schwab, Fidelity Investments, Ascensus, T. Rowe Price, Invesco, Human Interest, Wealthfront, Betterment. From all those institutions, we're transferring plans from their solo 401k plans over to our solo 401k plan that allows for the mega backdoor Roth and also comes with a $1,500 auto contribution credit. It's got all the bells and whistles, in other words, where you can even borrow from the solo 401k plan through a participant loan. Not only can you invest in equities, but you can also invest in alternative investments like precious metals, physical real estate, cryptocurrency, and so forth. And you can also make both employer Roth solo 401k contributions, pre-tax, employer contributions, Roth solo 401k employee contributions, voluntary after-tax solo 401k contributions as part of the mega backdoor Roth. You can even invest in life insurance. So whenever you have an existing solo 401k plan at an outside institution, that plan can always be restated to a solo 401k plan offered by my solo 401k financial. So a restatement means that you're basically switching from your current solo 401k provider to my solo 401k financial as the new solo 401k plan provider. So we actually have a really great video right there on the homepage of our website. If you go to the homepage and you scroll down, we have a video that will walk you step by step of how we restate an existing solo 401k at Charles Schwab to a solo 401k offered by my solo 401k financial. And we can even help you open up new company retirement pension trust brokerage accounts at Charles Schwab for the solo 401k plan that we offer. So even though Schwab offers their own solo 401k plan, they will also provide brokerage accounts for the self-directed solo 401k plan offered by my solo 401k financial. And we'll do the heavy lifting by preparing those Schwab brokerage accounts for the new solo 401k offered by us, and we'll fax those to Schwab for you so you don't even have to leave your home or your office. Schwab will then send you an email once those brokerage accounts have been opened. Then we'll help you to pick up and move that existing Schwab solo 401k, including any securities. So you don't have to sell your stocks or index funds or exchange traded funds. Those can all be moved over internally within Schwab to the new brokerage accounts for the solo 401k offered by my solo 401k financial. And what's great about that is that's neither taxable nor reportable. So a Form 1099-R does not get issued, nor does a final Form 5500 Easy, which applies when you close a solo 401k plan. But it would not apply in this instance because you're not closing your plan. You're simply replacing Charles Schwab you're replacing my solo 401k financial as the solo 401k plan document provider instead of using Schwab, but you're deciding to use Charles Schwab as the custodian of the funds. Because here at my solo 401k financial, we let you decide where to hold your funds at. So the way we see it is that it's your money, so you should decide where to hold your funds. And that's very different than many of our competitors, where they'll push you into using a bank that they might be getting kickbacks from, or a certain brokerage firm that you've never even heard of. I mean, what happens if that brokerage firm goes under? There goes your retirement funds. So we view it as you choosing where to hold your funds at. So they can be held at Schwab, Fidelity, your local bank, your local credit union, and we'll help you to get those accounts set up as well. So as this slide here details, we're not like other solo 401k providers who hold your money. You choose your bank or brokerage firm when you open a solo 401k with my solo 401k financial. So that's another advantage of utilizing my solo 401k financial. Now, let's keep answering your question here. Let me get back to it here. So in your situation, we would restate. Well, let me pull up the link that I was going to share with you regarding how the restatement works specifically for restating an existing solo 401k at Charles Schwab to a solo 401k plan offered by my solo 401k financial, which allows for the maximum flexibility under the IRS regulations. And again, we can do the same thing with existing solo 401k plans at Fidelity. That's another popular one. At Ascensus. Really, any firm. E-Trade's another big one that we restate solo 401k plans from. Edward Jones. There's another one, Morgan Stanley. Another one is ADP. I know ADP have been taking clients for a ride for many years where they're charging $1,000 a year just to have a solo 401k plan. And then when they try to leave ADP, they get charged another $2,000. So be forewarned for those who are looking to use ADP for a solo 401k plan. Talk about highway robbery. Give me a moment here while I pull up that link that I want to share with you regarding restating a Schwab solo 401k plan. And again, if you go to our homepage, you're going to see the video we have on this topic. And here it is. I located that video here. So, or the link that has the video. Give me a moment. I thought I copied and pasted it. Okay, take a look at that right there. So you're going to be able to utilize the Megabacco Roth Solo 401k plan when you restate that existing Schwab Solo 401k to my Solo 401k Financial. So what will happen here is that we'll help you to open up 3 separate brokerage accounts at Charles Schwab, known as pension trust accounts or company retirement brokerage accounts, for the solo 401k plan offered by my solo 401k Financial. We'll help you to transfer your pre-tax solo 401k funds at Schwab, as well as the Roth solo 401k funds at Schwab internally to these respective pre-tax and Roth solo 401k holding accounts. When you make the contribution to that voluntary after-tax solo 401k brokerage account there, you can then convert those funds directly to the Roth solo 401k or to the Roth IRA. You get to choose. Whether it gets converted to the Roth Solo 401k plan or the Roth IRA, that's going to trigger having to issue a Form 1099-R to report that conversion to the IRS. And here at my Solo 401k Financial, we're the ones that will issue that Form 1099-R as long as you timely request it. Schwab will not issue it. Now, your question about whether you should convert to the Roth Solo 401k or the Roth IRA, it depends. I can tell you that up to a few years ago, a lot of clients would convert to the Roth IRA, especially if they were nearing the required minimum distribution age, which used to be age 70 and a half, but it's now age 73. And the reason clients used to convert to the Roth IRA after they made that voluntary after-tax solo 401k contribution was because Roth solo 401k plans used to be subject to require minimum distributions, and Roth IRAs have never been subject to require minimum distributions, which apply once you reach age 73. Well, Secure Act 2.0 changed that, where now, just like Roth IRAs, a Roth solo 401k is now subject to require minimum distributions while the solo 401k participant is still alive. I don't want to open up a can of worms here, but once you pass away, then you need to understand the beneficiary distribution rules. But nonetheless, when you convert it to the Roth Solo 401k plan, it's not going to subject that Roth Solo 401k plan to require minimum distributions. So we find that most clients the last few years have now converted those voluntary after-tax solo 401k funds to the Roth Solo 401k instead of the Roth IRA. But the great thing about it is that here at my Solo 401k Financial, we let you choose whether you want to convert to the Roth Solo 401k or the Roth IRA, and we'll still perform the applicable Form 1099-R reporting under either event. You just need to make sure that you complete our online conversion form, which you can locate on the Forms tab of our website. If you click on Forms on the top right-hand corner of our website, you can view those conversion forms that you would fill out online to let us know that whether you converted those voluntary after-tax solo 401k funds to the Roth solo 401k or the Roth IRA. so that we can issue the Form 1099-R. So take a look at the slide here. It kind of goes over whether you should convert to the Roth IRA or the Roth Solo 401k. Okay, so if we have any other questions here. Is it too late to do the work with your company to contribute for 2025? It is not too late. Number one, you already have a solo 401k plan. So your plan would get restated to our plan. So therefore, you can make all contribution types for tax year 2025 here in 2026 by your business tax return due date plus timely filed extension. So you can make employee contributions, employer contributions, and voluntary after-tax solo 401k contributions for tax year 2025. Now, this is not impacting you, but for those who have not opened the solo 401k plan, so they don't have an existing solo 401k plan at Schwab or Fidelity, but you're looking to open a solo 401k plan for the first time, it's actually not too late for you to also open a solo 401k plan here in 2026 so that you can make tax year 2025 contributions. Let's take a look at a couple of slides on that front. So for example, if your business is taxed as a sole proprietorship and you're looking to open a solo 401k plan for the first time here in 2026 with the intention to make tax year 2025 solo 401k contributions because you were self-employed in 2025 and you had earned income from self-employment activity, you can actually open a solo 401k plan by April 15 of 2026, so this year, and you're going to be able to make all contribution types, employee, employer, and voluntary after tax for tax year 2025. You would need to make that employee contribution by April 15. If you file for an extension of that form, so you would file a Form 1040 extension if you're self-employed business that's taxed as a sole proprietorship, then you're going to have until October 15 of this year in 2026 to open a solo 401k plan, and you can make year 2025 solo 401k contributions, but only employer profit sharing contributions and voluntary after-tax solo 401k contributions, not employee contributions. Those have to be made by April 15 of 2026 if you're opening the plan for the first time here in 2026. Obviously, if you already have a solo 401k plan or you open one in 2025, you can make all these contribution types by April 15 of 2026 for tax year 2025 or by October 15 of 2026 for tax year 2025. If your self-employed business is taxed as a partnership or even as an S corporation, you can open a solo 401k plan here in 2026. You're going to need to do so by March 15 of 2026 unless you file for an extension of that partnership or S corporation business tax return. Then you're going to have an extra 6 months. You're going to have until September 15 of 2026 to open the solo 401k plan and contribute both employer profit sharing contributions and voluntary after-tax solo 401k contributions by September 15 of 2026 for tax year 2025. You just won't be able to make employee contributions. And that's because that Secure Act 2.0 only allows for a sole proprietorship self-employed business to make employee contributions for the previous year by April 15 of the current year if they wait to open the solo 401k plan in the current year by April 15. Talk about a mouthful of information. So that's how it works for a partnership and an S corporation. Okay, let's see if we have some more questions here. Here's another question. I have three holding Fidelity pre-tax, Roth, and after-tax. Okay. When I make contributions to, say, the pre-tax account, will the system allow me to specify the type of contribution? Employer, employee, whether it's a catch-up contribution, what tax year it is for, etc. No, it will not, and that's not a requirement. That's the whole purpose of that pre-tax brokerage account, is to only contribute pre-tax funds into that pre-tax brokerage account. So whether it's an employee pre-tax, an employer profit sharing pre-tax contribution, or a pre-tax catch-up contribution, it's all going to flow into the same pre-tax brokerage account. There's no special coding that applies. Instead, you're going to report those contributions to the IRS when you file your tax return. And that's going to depend on how your business, how your self-employed business is taxed, and the type of contribution as to how you report those contributions on your personal and or business tax return. If you go to our homepage, there's actually a video that we have right there in the middle of the homepage that explains how to report contributions for a solo 401k plan. Let me dig up the page here as well. And we actually, this link I'm going to share with you is a great resource. It breaks down how to report each contribution type line by line. It also breaks it down further by entity type and contribution type. And it's laid out very nicely in charts that are easy to read. Let me share that link with you right now. But in short, no, there's no special coding that Fidelity or any institution that's going to hold your solo 401k funds will use to code it, because that's not done at the brokerage level. That's done on your tax return. So take a look at that link I just shared with you. How are solo 401k contributions are counted and reported? That's probably our top 5 question we get every webinar. So great question. Again, take a look at that link right there. Look at our homepage as well. Just do a little bit of searching around on our website. Okay, we'll come back and look at some more questions here in a moment. In the meantime, if this information is helping you to feel more confident about your retirement future, we would really appreciate it if you took a moment to like today's presentation. You may not like the presenter, but maybe the information. Also, like us across all the various social platforms. Doing so helps us get the word out to other solopreneurs. So not only are you helping us out, but you're helping out your fellow solopreneurs. So take a moment to like and subscribe. Also, by subscribing to our YouTube channel, you're going to have access to over 1,100 webinars that we've done on the solo 401k. We've been in business since 2009, so we've accumulated a wealth of information. And we were actually the first ones in the industry to offer the Mega Backdoor Roth solo 401k, started back in 2013. We were the first ones in the industry to provide a solo 401k plan with an auto contribution credit. So bottom line, my solo 401k financial is always on the forefront of the regulations, and also we are very educational driven. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will also receive notifications regarding when we go live. We actually go live practically every day, at least once a day, but oftentimes twice a day. We like to call it 2-a-days. We're going to be going live again here today on a Friday here in a few hours. So if we don't get to all your questions now, no problem. You can log in again here in a couple hours at 1 p.m. Pacific time, and we're going to be covering another topic. We'll also be answering your questions live on the air. Okay, so today's topic has been who owns the LLC and a self-directed IRA? And we've also been answering your questions here. And so let's get back to my slides here regarding the self-directed IRA. So let's talk about why the self-directed IRA LLC structure is popular. Let's pull up the applicable slide here. I may not have a slide for that. So, so as far as why the self-directed IRA LLC is popular, well, a properly structured IRA LLC, aka checkbook IRA, provides checkbook control over your retirement funds. Now, keep in mind that a solo 401k plan, and we're not going to get into this because we've covered this in the past, but a solo 401k already comes with checkbook control. So typically, it's more advantageous to open a solo 401k plan. However, not everybody is self-employed. So if you're not self-employed, then obviously you cannot open a solo 401k plan. So your next option is to consider opening up a checkbook IRA, aka IRA LLC, if you want to have the same type of control. So with the checkbook IRA, where you've got checkbook control through that LLC, you don't have to have the self-directed IRA custodian approve investments. You don't have to wait for the self-directed IRA custodian to process the investment. So there's also, so you can execute your or process your investments faster since you're the manager of the LLC and you got checkbook control. Also, the transaction costs are lowered. Many self-directed IRA custodians will charge you a fee if they process an investment for real estate or other investments. When you make the investment through the LLC, where the self-directed IRA is the sole member, there are no costs except for whatever cost that bank account charges you to have a bank account for an LLC, which should be very minimal, but they're not going to charge you any type of transaction fee. Also, with an LLC, you're going to get creditor protection. So IRAs are protected from general creditors at the state level. It depends on your state of residence. We've actually performed a webinar on creditor protection as it applies to IRAs and even solo 401k plans, which you can view on our YouTube channel. But a lot of clients will invest their self-directed IRA in an LLC because they want to protect those LLC funds from general creditors. So those are things to consider. Let's talk about common mistakes to avoid when you invest a self-directed IRA in an LLC. So again, we're talking about who owns the LLC in a self-directed IRA. So common mistakes to avoid is using your personal name as the owner of that LLC, aka the member. Remember, the member of that LLC is the self-directed IRA custodian for the benefit of your IRA. Let's pull up that slide where we provided an example of how the investment would be titled in that LLC. Give me a moment here. So here's a slide here. So the member of that LLC is going to be the trust company, the self-directed trust company for the benefit of your traditional IRA. So that's a common mistake to avoid. Also, do not pay yourself a management fee. Even though you can manage the underlying assets of that LLC, you can now receive compensation for doing so. You can now use the LLC assets for personal use. Do not invest the IRA LLC with disqualified persons. So, for example, let's say your son is going off to college, and to save on room and board, you decide to buy a rental property through that LLC, and you want to have your son, along with his roommates, use that property. Well, that's not allowed because your children are considered disqualified parties. So that would result in a prohibited transaction. So do not make that type of investment if you're going to have your children use that property for personal use. You cannot use it for personal use either. So you want to make sure that You understand the prohibited transaction rules and the compliance rules when investing in a self-directed IRA and an LLC. So the final takeaway here, when you're asking your question, who owns the LLC and a self-directed IRA, is that you do not own the LLC. It's the self-directed IRA custodian for the benefit of your IRA that is the member of that LLC. You manage the LLC without compensation. So it's got to be for the exclusive benefit of that self-directed IRA when you're managing that LLC. So that distinction is the foundation of compliance, of IRA compliance. All right, let's see if we have any more questions here. Let's see here. Here's a follow-up question. The two 401k plans are mentioned are different pre-existing plans. Is it possible to restate both? In the manner you guys will handle the Form 5500 for me, taking something off my plate. Also, can a financial advisor trade funds in the new accounts that are set up? So let me look at your prior question here. Give me a moment here. Here we go. Let's look at this prior question here. Yeah, so you're saying that one's a traditional, one's a Roth. So you don't have two solo 401k plans at Schwab. It's considered one solo 401k plan. There's no such thing as two different solo 401k plans. Keep in mind that the Roth, the pre-tax, and voluntary after-tax are considered features of a solo 401k plan. So even though you may have opened the pre-tax solo 401k portion at Schwab first, and later opened up the Roth portion, it's still considered just one plan. So when we restate that existing Schwab solo 401k fund consisting of pre-tax and Roth solo 401k funds, those will both get restated to the solo 401k plan that we offer. So per my prior breakdown, and as this slide here denotes, make sure you can see that here. Give me a moment here. As the slide here shows, it's one plan, but will help you to transfer the pre-tax solo 401k funds in your existing solo 401k Schwab into this new pre-tax solo 401k brokerage account. And then those existing Roth solo 401k funds at Schwab and Schwab solo 401k will be transferred directly to this new Roth solo 401k brokerage account. And then you're also going to have a voluntary after-tax solo 401k brokerage account for performing the mega backdoor Roth solo 401k plan. So it's just one plan that allows for various contribution sources. Now, here at my solo 401k financial, we do provide ongoing compliance reporting. So not only are we the solo 401k plan provider, but we'll also perform Form 5500 easy reporting, which comes into play once the fair market value of your solo 401k plan is greater than $250,000. So we do perform that Form 5500 easy reporting. You just need to make sure you timely request that. If you go to the Forms tab of our website, you can see there's a link there where you would fill out to have us prepare the form or to get added to the preparation list. Same thing with the Form 1099-R. That applies when you take a distribution from the solo 401k plan, or if you process a conversion, whether you're converting pre-tax solo 401k funds or performing the mega backdoor Roth solo 401k conversion strategy, that'll result in a Form 1099-R. All that reporting is all covered in our annual fee of $125. We don't charge extra for that. And most of our business is on the institutional side, so advisor driven. So yes, we can help you to open up institutional brokerage accounts at Charles Schwab so that your advisor can be added to that account. And that way your advisor will have access to those brokerage accounts along with you for making those investments. All right. I don't think I see any other questions for now. But we've been on for almost an hour. But again, we'll be back again here in a couple hours. So bring your new questions at that time and we'll make sure to bring some answers with us. So that's it for today's solo 401k session. Thank you so much for investing your time with us. We know your time is valuable, but your solo 401k and IRA future depends on it. Again, if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to today's video and like it across the platforms so that we can keep building this community. Until next time, have a great rest of the day.